I don't believe there's any sewer.
So there's a
Because
whole-
when that building was
whole
empty, I looked
development
at buying that building one time. And,
The one right near the firehouse, across from
the old
nursing
college
home.
building.
Right, right.
Right, and there was no sewer there, and it turned me right off. When you don't have sewer in a big building like that, it's limited use.
Right. And for UNH Manchester, they're better off in the mills anyways.
Right, infilling.
Evidently, they thought so.
For the students to travel there and some, it's an easy in and out.
I think that, was it, the city owned that building and leased it to the college or something like that. That's all owned by the city of Manchester, that whole development.
They rehabbed that building too, pretty good.
Yeah, oh,
I
yeah.
think at one time,
It was in bad shape.
was it a trade?
was
The
worn
state
out.
had that, the city had downtown, right? And they made some kind of a deal where the university went down to the mills and then the city got that other property. I think, something like that. But there's a lot of parking lots up there.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah, I know it's, and they're all cracked up and grass growing through them, and
Oh, it's like an abandoned.
they'll just be bulldozed, I'm
Oh,
sure,
yeah,
when something
they'll
else
bulldoze.
happens. They'll
Exactly.
never use that infrastructure.
No. No.
Well, it doesn't look good for a quorum here. Usually by now we've got.
Yeah, maybe it will be an early meeting.
Yeah.
No. Who's presenting the business development process? You part of it?
Yep.
Good.
That's why Derek and I are here.
We'll take a picture of you two guys. I'm going to that big model show in Meriden, Connecticut Saturday. All my fire trucks are packed up.
Nice.
Model fire trucks?
Yeah, I make a lot. I make all kinds. I'm trying to see if we can make one for him of his vehicle. I just,
Is F-350?
You know, you
Yeah.
cannot find a model F-350.
I found a 250 that might work. I just made this,
Doesn't have the 350.
I just did this police car. I'm gonna give it to the chief.
Oh,
I
cool.
make all my own decals too. So I
Really?
take a picture of the car, and then I make all the decals. Then I screw it to this
So this is
plate.
the old style now, right?
Yeah, and then I do letter by letter to put it on with the badge, so I'll give it to the chief.
Neat.
Yeah, it's fun.
So these are what? This is
That's
a
a
model
road
of
champs, it's a road champs police car, and then this is made out of like 3 different fire trucks that I cut with saws and rebuild.
So what's the size?
Matchbox. I'll show you another, a better one. There's ambulances, I do all my own decals.
Scale Charlie works in, we go blind.
This is Matchbox. And then this is a big tiller. This is all custom made. That's from a front end loader, the tiller box. And then this was a rear mount ladder that I cut it all up and redid all with plastruck. Cut it and re-glued it and redid the whole piece. And then that's another one. I
That's a
did.
bad looking rig.
Yeah, it's about this long. So I've probably got about like 70 of those. So I got them all packed up in bubble wrap, and I'll haul them all down to this show in Connecticut. There's none others around here. And,
And so there's other model builders like yourself, and it's like
oh yeah, there's guys coming into that show from Philadelphia, Washington, that put
and
my, they
it's
put
all
my,
emergency stuff?
all emergency stuff, that put my work to shame. They really do.
What's the verdict?
We're over here, huh?
All right.
Mark's here. I left a message on Brian
This is my
Hanson.
basement. Those are all Winross trucks. They're all pre-fitted when I was in the food business. I have every state police car in the country.
All that
Those
you,
are all
all
the-
that you've done yourself?
Some I've bought, some I've done myself.
Cool.
And then these are all those fire trucks. This is my man cave in the basement.
Awesome.
My wife just tells me, make sure none of these fire trucks get up in the living room. Yes, ma'am.
You just don't understand,
Or
huh?
they'll go AWOL, and I don't want that to happen.
What do you got for meeting next door?
Cable Access Committee, we're on a different night this month, so we're relegated over here.
It's a fun, one. It keeps me out.
Still have
You gonna do
network.
something? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
Camera on,
Yeah, we were gonna tell him, Steve wanted
I
to,
wanna go over some meeting protocol first, and then we'll
Is he coming?
We'll
I
tell
left a
them to
message for him.
turn it on, and we'll take it from there. I just wanna try to formalize the meetings a little more than they have been. I don't like how it just becomes people just talking all the time. We need to, run it like a meeting, so I'd like to just have a little discussion about protocol, like the opening and closing of the meeting to be done by me, the chair. Discussion, all discussion needs to be through the chair, by a show of hands. You know, I understand sometimes it'll get to be a discussion, but and it's what happens is we get off task by doing that, I think. I think it's better that we go by a show of hands and we keep some order to the meeting that way. Agenda items, I'd like to see if we can label the agenda items a little bit, Derek, in the future, so I have a better handle on it, whether they're gonna be informational
Okay,
for discussion, or if we'll need a vote on them.
okay.
Because, you know, I'm a little new at this, and I
Yep.
don't always understand, you know, when we need to vote for things, and I'm still gonna need your guidance if I don't recognize at the point where we need to vote on something. I'd like you to
Yeah,
bring that to my attention.
okay, I can do that.
And I just think that'll help us stay on task. And then items that, sometimes we start and we'll get off task and discussion will start on something else. And I want to just kind of nail that down and say, you know, let's save that for other business and stay on the task of the agenda item. And, you know, that's really it. I'm not trying to, you know, make it too formal, but I think we need to formalize it a little more than we have.
Okay.
So with that said, if you want to start the meeting?
Yeah, let me just go let Andrew know.
Here's a rock. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think we
All
need
right,
to.
well said.
Okay, meeting in session. So we start with introductions. The Chair of the Economic Development, Steve Langley.
Derek Horn.
Charlie Tentis, Vice Chair.
Andrew Carteret?
Mark Lemay, Selectman's Rep.
Bill Connor, Goffstown Fire.
Okay, minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to review? Any questions or comments? Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, old and new business. Business development process.
I had prepared a slide presentation, not realizing that, or forgetting that we were gonna be in this room. So you do have a paper copy in front of you of it. And this is kind of a process that has been out there for, let's say, the last 2 years. Not necessarily the process, but we've understood as staff that we need some type of process. What was happening before is business owners, developers were coming to staff, coming to the planning zoning department, and asking what they would need to do to develop a business. What do I need to do? I want to open up a salon in this particular building. What do I need to do? And a lot of times, planning and zoning, and I worked in that department, we saw it with our blinders on of these are the development regs, this is the zoning ordinance. Of these, you're gonna need this zoning board approval, you're gonna need this planning board approval, help them with the application. Get them through the planning board process with the TRC that engineering and fire are involved in, but that's really just looking at the site, your parking, your building, that kind of thing, not looking at the entire site, the entire building inside and outside. And then it goes to the planning board, gets approval, they meet their conditions, they go and sign their lease, whether it's 6-month or a year lease, and then they come and pull building permits, and they come and get their fire permits, and all of a sudden, that's when the hammer falls of, this is the type of business you're using, this was what was in there before, this is what, and this is the type of investment that you're gonna need to make into the property to bring it up and meet the building code, the health code, the life safety code, fire code. So, you know, that's really that second slide there. That's before, the zoning board and planning board do not really look at that type of information. And we're not looking to change that, but what we're trying to do is develop a process, and this came out in 2010, where we started having more meetings with fire, police, planning and zoning here, administration here, building and health, and engineering. And then, Bill, maybe you can explain a little bit of the schooling you went to and the project that you worked on.
As part of my executive fire officer program, we have to do a study project each of the 4 terms. And my last project was called Concept to Occupancy. And it was based on some information that I was getting in my office that was saying, process is difficult, we're getting conflicting information, zoning planning saying one thing, building fire saying something else, highway saying something else. So, being that it was anecdotal in a sense, I was hearing it from contractors on site, I decided to do a little research and find out if there was more to it. And the deeper I dug into it, the more I found that it was our system that was failing our customers. And because, as Derek described, they would go in to planning or zoning and they'd get a clear shot and say, yeah, that's great, put that business in there. Sometimes they'd go get the permits, and sometimes they'd go, well, it's the same kind of business, I don't need any permits. But they weren't the same type of business. So when we caught up with them, whether building or fire caught up with them, we started laying down the law with the codes and and the price tag just started going through the roof. An example, we had a gentleman that wanted to put, we'll call a place of occupancy, a place of assembly, which was kind of a restaurant bar sort of arrangement. And he was going next to an industrial operation that had highly combustible and highly flammable materials. Well, that requires a 3-hour firewall by fire code. There wasn't one there. So that was an unanticipated cost. He hadn't talked to the building inspector, and he needed special HVAC equipment for the type of occupancy that he was putting in there. So the price tag started going up, and in that particular case, the gentleman had already signed a lease. He was already stuck with this property and had no idea what he was getting into. So our hope, and after doing this study, was to put all the players in one room so that someone was coming in to do something, they could talk to all of us at once. And we get the right direction, head off in the right direction, and then we can cut down on the surprises along the way.
And that's kind of where we started in January to start having that process. So I think we started off meeting maybe once a month. And over time, we've developed a draft process for taking that, your business concept all the way up to occupancy. We presented it a couple times to the selectmen. And when we met with them about a month ago, their task to us was, okay, go out and talk to the Economic Development Council, go talk to the Planning Board, and also develop a group of applicants that have been through the process recently to get their feedback, kind of to see if they think these changes will make it better, or are you increasing the level of bureaucracy? Because that's not our goal in this. We're trying to make this clearer. So with that meeting once a month, we've been working on the process, some applications that have no additional fees or anything like that, but just kind of try and envelop everything, kind of an umbrella to what we have now and bring it all together. It's also given an opportunity for, we've had probably about 6 or 7 different applicants come in and talk to us, whether they were already before planning board and had an active application, or they were considering leasing a space and they wanted to come in, or somebody who was getting ready to do a subdivision and wanted to know what type of engineering they were facing and what would be required of them. So these are the kind of people we've come in, and I think we've learned some valuable lessons because, Bill and Mark Tessier, who's our building inspector, they're all real knowledgeable about their code, so Bill can say, well, you're gonna have to do this. As you change that, it's gonna affect building. So we're kind of seeing getting everyone in the room has been very helpful. And what we're trying to do is kind of guide business owners through the entire process. And I've given you a sample of the application that we've developed, and it's a 6-step process. It's defined on the top. Really, once an applicant comes in and defines that project and gives us that site information, this group starts that review, and would be I guess, page number 3 or page number 4, there's a permit checklist to tell people this is what you're gonna need. Also gives us the ability to highlight some of the state forms, some of the sewer permits where we can also highlight what their hookup fees are gonna be. We've been talking with the sewer department, police with their alarm permits, all those things that we can kind of highlight. It also gives applicants an opportunity to once again meet with all those departments at once with whether it's a pre-engineered plan that has a fairly well laid out what they're looking to do and get some feedback, or if it's a full plan already before the planning board to, I guess what we're trying to do is take it from the planning board can accept that application and then really improve that TRC process where we take it away, fine tune everything so we can go back to the planning board with an approvable plan. So I guess our purpose here tonight is to explain the process as how we envision it, look for your feedback, answer any questions you may have, because we're still in the point where we're trying to refine this, and we'd like to move forward with this, make it a little bit more formal, and start a pilot program for, the first 6 months to take some applicants through this to see how it works.
So you're gonna make this required by applicants?
In a sense, all this is mapping what's already there. This is now gonna be your starting point, instead of just wandering in and talking to Brian or
Mhm.
Derek.
So when they do that, when they wander in, you're gonna give them this application and say, start with this. And is this gonna be a totally different committee than the TRC? You're still gonna have TRC?
It's a TRC, I hate to say on steroids, but it's a bigger, because you're putting, Derek's gonna be sitting there, Brian's gonna be sitting there, I'm
Mhm.
gonna be there, Megan's gonna be there, but also Mark Tessier is sitting in, and Rob Brown from the police department. So there's two more perspectives that you weren't originally getting in a normal team.
I do think it's a good idea, because I know from my own experience, you keep getting hit with these fees. Like, oh, you're gonna need a fee for your security opening. You're gonna need a fee for your fire system. You're gonna need a fee, and these fees just keep coming. Sewer is a huge one. And if people don't understand this up front, I can understand why it gets to be overwhelming, especially if you go into a leased space and you're saying, oh, well, it's all here. And that's not really the case.
And look at, you're an experienced developer. So you have Harry Homeowner that decides he's tired of working in Manchester, wants to put a building up in his backyard and wants to run a business out of there.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks it's just a matter of cleaning out the garage and throwing a couple extra lights in and away he goes. We had a guy a couple of years ago that wanted to do machining in his garage. The stuff he was gonna machine in his garage was must spontaneously, if not properly stored. Plus, where he was located was under some power lines, so now not only are we going to have this garage that could go up at any moment, but he's under a major grid line with his stuff.
I recall
And
that.
I think there wasn't enough power coming up the road, so there was gonna be a utility upgrade to do what he wanted to do. If he hadn't asked, or we hadn't caught what he was doing up front, there would have been a lot of finger pointing of, well, you said I could, and
Mm-hmm.
this will prevent a lot of that. We're hoping just to keep people on the same track. We've seen people, we had a couple projects come into town. Planet Fitness comes into town, at the same time a smaller project came into town. Planet Fitness went straight through, answered all the questions, filled out all the forms, blah, blah, blah. Professionals, because
Been
they
there.
have people that do that. The other business that started at the same time was someone that owned a business, but they were going into a different area of business, and they started renovating a house, and they didn't ask questions, and they didn't get the right permits, and they didn't fill out the right paperwork, and they thought they were building, I think in that case, a home occupied business. Well, it wasn't. It was a full-scale, other kind of business. So when they went to open, they needed a license from the state, and the state needed something from my office and from the building department, and we all kind of went, where'd that come from? You need to fix. And then all war breaks out, but now you have a major project like Planet Fitness that's taking the square footage of something like the size of Shaw's, and they're going straight through because they know what questions to ask, they know what people to talk to,
They understand the process.
they understand that there is a process.
Mm-hmm.
The other side effect we foresee as we process this, or get this process rolling, is we're gonna develop a database of buildings and tenant spaces. When they get developed or get changed over, we're gonna know what's in them. So when someone goes through a space, let's say at Goffstown Plaza goes through a space and redoes the interior.
Or a lot of it gets filled in.
Yeah.
I can't see how else you could do it.
No, our resources aren't such that we
Right.
can start going door to door and start mapping what's there.
Or archiving old plans.
Anytime we go into a
Archives.
fire at a facility or a gas incident or whatever, it gives us an opportunity to map some of that information.
Yeah.
So it's developing slowly. New buildings and new tenants are gonna give us the biggest opportunity
Mhm.
to map that stuff.
But I think we've also talked as, one, this is talking about the businesses as going in. We've also talked about reaching out to the landlords. So the landlords can understand what they have there for a space. A lot of the landlords in town don't understand what they have for a space and what limitations that presents
Mm-hmm.
when they go out and seek somebody to be a tenant. And we envision them going, working with this process as well. Not necessarily going to planning board where they're gonna get an approved plan, because they've already got an approved commercial use that may not require planning board approval, but they may not understand that they need a 3-hour separation between unit A and unit B. And either what type of businesses they should be looking to pair together, or if they want no limitations, what they can do to upgrade that space to give them the maximum flexibility.
My predecessor always used to make the example of, we don't want a fireworks factory next door to a daycare. And that's obviously an extreme,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what we're trying to protect ourselves and our community from is sometimes the paper goes up on the glass and we don't know what's behind the paper until someone tears it down and puts a grand opening sign up. And it can get exciting.
Okay.
So
Anything else on that?
No, I mean, it's a lot to digest, so if you want me to, I can email you the slide presentation, that way you have the whole thing. And
wanna-
the application. We also have information, we've kinda got what we envision going up to begin on the website, so I can send you a link to that as well, and then if you just email me, your comments, I can share it. Because again, the whole reason we're going out to the Economic Development and Planning Board is to kinda explain what we envision this process to go and try and take your concerns and comments into consideration as we fine tune it before we, do a pilot program potentially.
Okay, ask questions?
Yeah, any other comments?
Is just, you might have a better opinion on this, is the 8:30 to 10 a.m. on Tuesday mornings realistic for most people trying to start businesses? Is that flexible enough?
I think that's pretty typical of TRC
I don't know.
committees. They typically do them like that. I mean, it's hard to bring all those people together, so,
As a business person?
yeah, I think
You
it's.
would be able to work within those
In my
time
experience,
frames?
that's pretty typical. That's when they do them, is in the mornings.
That's what we've
Midweek
seen in
like
most
that.
of the other communities. I think we might be able to, if somebody makes a request of us, we'd be able to talk, or that's definitely a concern we can bring back to the group. But this was kind of a time we tried to get, earlier in the morning, so people wouldn't have to, if they're envisioning starting a business, or, if maybe it's before the rush and they can get somebody to cover for a little while.
Mhm.
But
And
to-
then,
Go ahead.
There's gonna be minutes of those meetings, or some feedback to us? I would think that would be a great conduit for information to the Economic Development Committee about what's happening and who's doing what.
When we do formal TRCs, there are formal minutes. One of the interesting facets of this committee is it's been informal, and that gives us an opportunity to sit and talk to the developer as equals instead of thou shalt.
Right, so they have a little bit more comfort. When do you have the TRC meetings normally? I didn't realize this
The
is,
original
I thought this
T-
was a new group, so there's
Yeah,
already an existing
The
one?
original TRCs were kind of called on an as-needed basis,
Uh-huh.
so they were very irregular.
Yeah,
Because I don't think we've ever seen minutes or anything like that.
Usually for new development, I mean,
usually it's triggered by somebody who would be before the planning board,
Right.
and only the planning board, not the zoning board, but planning board with an application, and
Uh-huh.
the planning department would send out a TRC notice, they'd take their notes, those notes would be incorporated into that file, for their feedback to the planning board. The nice thing about doing this on a Tuesday, first and third Tuesday is if we get that regularity, somebody comes in on a Thursday before, hey, and this has happened already 2 times, is, hey, I'm looking to open up, we wanna move our church from this location to this location. Can we come in? Yeah, come in, be there at 8:30, they were there, they came in, we talked, we told them, hey, these are, you're going from retail to assembly, this is what you're gonna need to do, and I think it was an eye-opening experience for them before they got into the point where they had, left their old space before they get, potentially stuck in a new one.
right, or before people sign leases, it's,
Well, absolutely. And you
It's a good
have people
opportunity
that
for
aren't
'em.
familiar with buildings and building processes, and they walk into an open space. You can have someone that has a small church walk into a space like this and say, this would be a great place to have my church, I can put my altar here. Well, as you know, Steve, when they start adding stuff, it starts changing the requirements for the space.
there's the occupancy, right?
And a lot of times we get people that are moving from one space that, because they have sprinklers, as for instance, there's a lot of trade-offs. They're moving to a building that doesn't have sprinklers, and all of a sudden, all sorts of codes kick in that they're not familiar with because it's a different type of building.
I think it's a great idea. It's a pretty big undertaking for staff, right, to get all these people together every other week like that. I mean, I think it's a great thing you're doing, and I think it's
The first few meetings were a little rough.
probably a little
getting it.
difficult.
Once we get it plugged into our calendars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is quite an undertaking.
And I think for us, we're kind of seeing for us, it will probably be about the same amount of work in the end, but it's a little bit more pleasant when you can advise people before they start doing a project,
Right.
rather than chasing them after they're already in the space and they're ready, okay, we're gonna do the grand opening. No, you're not gonna do the grand opening, and it's easier to advise them at the beginning and start working together at that point, so.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
I think it's a good idea.
I think it's a real good idea.
Yep.
So there's a very good possibility that we'll probably be tapping some of you guys to sit in on our
Focus groups.
Focus groups, because the guys that are out in the community, Steve, you've been through the process, so
Mm-hmm.
you know what that's like, and I think Brian's been through the process.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be the type of people we're looking for to get involved in the focus groups. No, I'm done. But, yeah, that's the type of feedback that the selectmen are looking for, is to find out how we're impacting the people that use the system. And this isn't about making things easier for staff, this is about making things easier for the applicant, giving them a clear path. A side effect is, yes, it does make things easier for the staff. I don't have to write a 5-page letter after the fact.
True.
When I can have a conversation with the developer for 10 or 15 minutes and send him off in the right direction. So it works out better all the way around.
So you talk about these focus groups. Is this something you're gonna do as part of these meetings? I mean, every meeting you don't have applicants at, so you,
We haven't looked at the system for focus groups yet. I think we're gonna have to go with the convenience of the group and work from there.
so when you meet, do you say every other week?
Yeah, the first and third
First.
Tuesday.
Do you always have applicants at these meetings?
Because we've been working on the process,
I see.
a lot of those meetings have been spent talking about, okay, here's a draft application, here's a website, these kind of things.
Mhm.
But I think we've been meeting every other week since about April now. And since those, we've had either an applicant there, or it serves as one is, some of these current developments that you drive by, whether it's Family Dollar, whether they haven't started, but Cumberland Farms up here, it's that, I don't see Bill. I don't see Bill. Building department may pass him in the driveway when they're inspecting a house or something, but it gets all the players in one room at a time, we go over, if somebody comes in and they have an idea, we talk to them, we do the process, and then it's usually just free form to talk about what's going on, what issues we're having with certain developments and what we need to watch for, what's going good. You know, Bill talks about who's coming in. That's how a lot of these new businesses that I would never find out about until they open their doors. I've got clued in for engineers that have contacted him. So,
The other thing is Mark and I are out on the road all day, so we're seeing things that may not come across Brian or Derek's desks along the way. And it's also given, Megan will see things, because she's out there all day and she can do that. Did you guys look at, have you
Mhm.
guys seen? So it's been helpful. And we've had some good workshop sort of situations where someone's starting a project and we go, okay, we're gonna be looking for this, this, and this in this project. What are you guys gonna be looking for? This is what we found over there, and it's been good feedback. It helps Brian when they come to him to steer him in the right direction. I don't tell him something and have Mark come out and tell him something different.
Which can happen, right?
It can happen. Our codes are usually parallel, but every once in a while they go in opposite directions on stuff. But, 9 High Street's underway. They're renovating that building. We've had some good conversations and meetings about that, of what we're gonna be looking for. And that's one of those buildings, it was a restaurant, it's gonna be a restaurant. What could change? Well, there's a lot of things that are changing, so it was good for us as a group to talk about it and get some feedback and make sure all the players that need to be involved got involved.
Sounds like it's really good for economic development.
I think the other reason it's a good idea is too, is as businesses come into town, they go through that process. Let's face it, they have friends that may be moving their businesses too. And if they hear of this streamlined,
Right.
kind of one-stop shopping, guidance, not getting angry after the fact when they've signed the lease, then these individuals might say, you know what, maybe I need to look at maybe locating my business there too, if you've been able to streamline this process and help them. So I think it's a good idea.
So what I'll do is I'll send you a copy of, the prepared slide presentation, the application, and I'll give you a link to the website that's kind of dormant on our website. It's not public out there. And if you could just provide some feedback to the group, we'd really appreciate it. That way, in the fall, when we hope to start a pilot program and start getting some applicants to go through this process, help them, give us some course correction, so your comments would.
So at this time, you haven't formalized this where you're having people fill out this application?
Correct. We
Come to
haven't,
the meetings.
we haven't done that.
I see. Okay, any other discussion?
You want us to email you feedback, or are you looking for this group to give you feedback?
If you've got
one
feedback
at a
now,
time?
that'd be great. If you, emails.
So
what-
email's fine?
Yeah, email's fine.
What do you want? Do you want us to
No,
email it
that's-
to you?
Probably to Derek. I mean, he's the one that's piloting this program, so.
And definitely, if you guys think of something after the fact, it's open door. Derek can answer questions, I can answer questions. I just forewarn you, the best way to reach me is through email.
I got your email. Okay.
That's in there.
Great.
Thank you.
Move to our next item.
It's pretty brief, but the New Hampshire Community Planning Grant, we found out earlier this week that Goffstown was awarded the full amount that we requested for the 2-year Pinardville study. So, staff is currently gonna be working on, putting an RFP out to seek a consultant to lead the community through this, and also work with the UNH Cooperative Extension. Their grant has a big outreach program that we aren't necessarily familiar with, but it's a great opportunity to bring in some people that might be underrepresented in some of the old master planning and stuff. So we're hoping to have a public listening session and really kick off sometime probably in September. I think is what we proposed in the application. So, and we have until March of 2014. That's when the proposed zoning or proposed regulation change would happen. Again, for anybody who's not familiar, this is, we're gonna be doing, for about the first 6 months, almost a master plan for Pinardville to do, see what we can do for sustainable development down there, and then have the consultant work with us to do a new regulations. You know, staff, we're kind of envisioning potentially, if again, it's all dependent on what the input from the community is, but maybe some type of base for our form-based zoning, and pretty excited about it.
That amount was 50,000?
Yes, that's the grant amount, and then we've got, we've had pledge support from the Goffstown Industrial Corp. We've also had some volunteers that came forward after the application was submitted, so.
Great. Excellent.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great job.
That's a good job.
Yep. Good.
We're excited because, you know, Pinardville's never had that separate, I think if you look at the 97 master plan, one of the specific tasks is do a master plan for Pinardville, and that, I know they did the village planning that came up with the village commercial district. It never got done down in Pinardville, so, we're really excited.
15 years in the making.
Yeah.
Great. Well, that's good. Okay, the Business Welcome and Mentoring Program. Do you have any update on that?
Yep, I've got packets available for you. I apologize for not getting these to you sooner. And I've got a couple of new businesses that have since come in or that we have since become aware of. I think last month, let's see if my notes indicate that Andy and,
I was doing the reach up or whatever it's called.
what was it? The Trading Up?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
What I did is, Brian had emailed me just some questions, and I also kind of, pass that his way,
Okay.
some sample questions, and I had also taken a visitation questionnaire, and you'll see that in the packet. And then for packets that are, or for properties that are located in Pinardville or the Village Commercial that are eligible for the revitalization tax credit or tax incentive, I've included a packet about that. So these ones, I think, was Erica Folensby, which is food photography, and then Alpha's barbershop, and then I had two new ones. One's a home occupation on Shirley Hill Road called Be Found, New Hampshire. They do photograph, email optimization, a lot of that that web stuff that we're just starting to learn about here. And then the other one is Cabell Corner Art and Craft Consignment Boutique, which has been there for a little while, but it's just about Jacques' flower shop in upstairs for the so I just, there's two people would be willing to,
I'll take one of them.
okay.
I'll take one too.
And again, as they come in, I'll be able to, thanks to Brian sending that over, I've got a template with, I'll be able to enter the information, stuff the pack, and get them out a lot quicker next time. And then, I don't know, if you see something that's missing from that questionnaire, if you think this packet of information can be improved, please let me know. It's kinda, I see it as a starting point, and we'll just go forward from there.
Just give me, it's okay if I, just some points on this. This one has the community revitalization tax relief incentive.
Yep,
So this woman is in the village commercial.
Yep.
That doesn't, she's not in one of those zones, is she?
she is.
So which
She is.
zones are that?
She's in the, could you just turn the map? I think it's the red.
Yeah.
Yep, so anybody in that village commercial, if she was going to do significant, substantial rehabilitation to that property, she may be eligible for a break on the property taxes, which leasing the property people may not think about, but if they're really gonna do significant upgrades to the space, working with the landlord, they should be able to realize that savings, and we can help them through that process. And that handout is really, it's like the 5 mile view over the top. It's just to kind of pique their interest, and they can give me a call and we can go through the
I'll
application.
talk to you later about it, just
Yeah.
so we can get some more pointers so I can
Yeah,
explain it.
absolutely.
Anything else on that?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, last thing on our agenda is elected versus appointed land use boards.
There is no literature out there about elected versus appointed land use boards. What, through the Metro Center and some of the other stuff we've seen is, there is quite a bit of literature about training that planning boards have and zoning board members have available to them. So rather than going down that elected versus appointed, I do have some information. There is a woman that did her doctoral dissertation at Plymouth State College. She's done presentations recently at the Metro Center, Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. Those were videotaped. I can provide you the link to those and her dissertation and her PowerPoint presentation. It gives you a really interesting understanding of what planning board members, what they actually get for education. And through the Metro Center, we had our education subcommittee meeting yesterday and really started talking about how to, I mean, you can't force education down somebody's throat, especially for volunteers. They really have to. So with Metro Center, we're coming up with a best practices presentation for planning boards. So we're working on that. There is planning board training available out there through New Hampshire Planners, Citizens Planners website. So we're going to make that available to our planning board. But rather than going down the elected versus appointed, I think maybe we look at the training that is available out there, and through the education subcommittee, we might be able to make some recommendations on how to improve that training. But
I think that's one of the issues, that nobody seems to get the training, or a lot of people weren't aware that it was available. That's what I seem to learn from these
Yep.
Metro Center meetings.
oh yeah, and as staff, we tried to maybe 5 years ago because there was a spring and fall planning conference put on by the state, and we made that available. We budgeted for it, and it wasn't taken advantage of many times. In the last 2 years, the state has cut all their training. They're not providing that training anymore. So there's different organizations, whether it's the Municipal Association, whether it's Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, trying to figure out how they're going to fill in those gaps. And they're still trying to figure that out. But there is some free training available out there. And as we continue this discussion, which I think is a fruitful discussion, might be able to see where you can influence the Metro Center, or the Education Subcommittee, on what's important kind of training. What I'll do is I will send you that video, which is just on YouTube. It was at the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission's meeting a couple weeks ago, and her PowerPoint presentation and her dissertation.
And you attended that?
I was not able to attend that. I have seen it on the, it
Yeah,
was
I'd like to see
Manchester
that.
Community
Would
Television.
like to have been there. Anybody else on that? Any other business?
I don't have any other business. I don't know if anyone else.
The other night, see if I can get that paper. We had the meeting for the exit on the highway. The meeting is scheduled for the 18th, coming up this week. I know they were looking for, here it is, this notice here. Did you get that, Steve?
Yes.
Does anybody plan on attending that? I'm gonna try to make it if I can get the time to get there. I guess it's gonna be a pretty interesting meeting from what I've heard of so far. Pretty much all I got.
The only other thing I have is, I was supposed to, at the all boards meeting, talk about the parking at Glen Lake, and there just wasn't an opportunity at that meeting. So we want to pursue that, we need to,
I sent
Go
some
to
draft
s-
language to Derek.
Yep, and Steve had that.
I have that.
And I think the selectmen controlled that meeting differently than it had been. In the past, they let each kind of board make a presentation on an issue of importance, whereas the selectmen chose to focus on budgeting
in communication.
communication. But I do know that, I believe Glen Lake came up Monday night at the selectmen's
You want me
meeting.
to- I can comment on that.
Yes.
Collis, Adams, Scott Gross shared some concerns. They had been by I had been by once. I thought it was pretty crowded, but Collis and Scott Gross both saw exceptionally large number of vehicles vehicles that did not have tags, vehicles that possibly may have belonged to the residents of town but didn't display their tags on them. Across the street, they were parked in the boat parking lot. There were people they squeezed through the gates to get parked in the woods. There's people parking at the school, there's people parking on Upton Lane. Parking is pretty much out of control, I
It must have been
guess.
when it was real hot.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that becomes a police issue at that point, though,
Well,
right?
we had discussed that.
Because it is well marked right now.
It's well marked, and I know from listening to the radio that police are there at least once or twice a day, and they are writing tickets out. They are generating the tickets. Whether they need to get there more is a question that needs to be answered, I guess, depending on the amount of heat that's generated during the day. The concern is the beach is getting an overuse of people that do not belong to the town of Goffstown. There was a suggestion made, whether it's followed through or not, whether we discuss it some more at the selectmen's board, to physically send somebody out and canvass, show me your ID, and if they're not there, maybe ask them to leave or whatever,
But that's not what the ordinance was about, it was parking.
Yes, parking, but, I
In
mean,
those specific spots.
yes, but, parking is all over now. There are several spots related for the people of Goffstown, but
Right.
it's all over the place now. It's in the school parking lot, it's on Upton Lane, they're squeezing in wherever they can squeeze in, and the beach is just overcrowded.
So they're blatantly parking illegally, though, because from what
Correct.
I understand and what I
Well-
see, it's all signed. What we're
Yeah.
talking about is a little different, though. I mean,
Right.
we're looking to have permitted,
Non-residents.
non-resident, by
Yeah.
permit.
Yeah, correct, yes.
So that's-
And that's, I was gonna lead up to that, but to address what we talked about Monday night in our meeting is the fact that, there's an overabundance of,
Those are probably pretty isolated, though, to the real hot weather, right? I mean, when I travel by there, I don't typically see that it's overcrowded. I didn't go by when it was 95 degrees out, and I can understand that people flock to the water, but typically, you go by, like, when I came here this evening, there was almost nobody parked there. And if you wanted to go, maybe there should be some vehicle that you can use to get there, such as a permit.
Yes, I would say yes.
Or for group events like Andy was talking about.
Correct, yeah, that would have to come to us, the Board of
Mhm.
Selectmen, and, we would have to, I guess, give a,
Or to the town,
Or
or
to
to the
the-
police
yeah,
department, or
yeah.
whoever that body
yeah,
is that would.
I'm sure the
regulate.
police would have to sign on it, fire, depending on whatever's there, we'd have to.
Well, it has to be a change in the ordinance, I guess.
It would have to be
Yeah.
a change in the ordinance.
Yeah.
So if that's something we still want to continue to pursue, I guess we have to decide how we want to continue with it.
Oh, can I comment?
Yes.
I drive by there every day, and I barely ever see anybody parked out there.
Mhm.
I was gone for the weekend, so maybe
Yeah.
the weekend when everybody else is out playing. And I think that the issue is about those parking spots, that's what the ordinance is about. So
Mhm.
whether people park on Upton Lane, there's no law against that, I don't believe. And there's no law against people being there going from the town, it's parking in those spots that are reserved for the town. That's
Well, I
what
guess the
understand.
issue in Upton Lane is the people that are parking on private property, they're parking on somebody's property.
Yeah, I don't know what the right of way is on parking on the side of the road. I think you have, does
Yeah,
the
you
town
have-
own like 7 feet into your property or something like that?
I'm not sure what it is, but
I don't know, you guys might know.
I guess it depends on how, if it's signed no parking, which everything around there seems to be, and I don't know
Not
if
on
they've done it
Upton
on
Lane.
this Upton Lane,
No, not enough.
so I just don't know how they.
And there's right next to it, there's a bunch of town that's owned by the state of New Hampshire Fish and Game, where you can go and park there anytime. And it's tons of parking right there. People
Yeah.
don't go down there because it's a dirt road. But, I don't know.
Yeah, well, some of this is nothing that we can control, it's more of a police issue or selectmen's issue, but what we were talking about, what you were suggesting is different.
Correct, I think.
I think so too, and it seems to make sense. I just don't know how we pursue it. And I don't know how they're going to receive it, where they have this problem now with being overwhelmed by parking or illegal parking. So I'm looking for ideas.
Guidance, Derek? How do you get things before the selectmen to ask for a zoning amendment?
It'd be an amendment to the Glen Lake
Glen Lake ordinance. is
waterfront
currently-
ordinance, and make a request to be on their
Do we
agenda.
have an attorney that writes that up that we present to the?
It was written by staff, it was overlooked by the town attorney, probably Kerry Steckowitz over at, PD. I think the first step is, let me get you on their agenda for a Monday night and just go in and have a conversation with them, and now's probably, sounds like
Yeah.
it's
we're not-
ripe
we're not-
to go in of, yeah, we understand you're having these problems, if you're gonna make changes, let's also consider some type of way for, either for, a special permit, a non-resident, something,
It's
so.
gonna be regulated too,
Yeah.
it's,
Yep. So
And
let me.
Yeah, I don't think we're
Five
reinventing the wheel,
minutes.
that's done in,
Right.
with many private and town beaches and so on, so,
It's more like an event permit.
right.
Yep.
Is that something you're interested in going
Sure.
through?
And I can go as well, and talk to it, so, let me talk tomorrow to, town administrator, see when we can get on their agenda,
Okay,
but it would be a Monday night, and get there and talk about it.
so who would it be to?
The Board of
Planning
Selectmen.
The Board of
Board of
Selectmen.
On a Monday night?
Yep,
Okay.
on Monday night.
Okay.
Usually they, have appointments either at 6:30, 7:30, depending on what else they have on the agenda, but I'll see, so if you have some convenient dates, let me know, but I think because this issue's kind of ripe, the next couple of weeks would probably be most
Okay.
appropriate.
Okay,
I'd go Andy and support you on that.
Okay.
if there's nothing else, do I have-
I had just a couple things.
Yep.
Farmers Market in town, there was one this weekend, and I just would like to know, is there anything we can do to promote that? I don't know if they came to you for permits for that, or,
They've gone to the selectmen,
Yeah.
and through, again, that group that we had, we talked with one of them, there were actually 2 farmers markets in town.
you know?
It's one at Grasshoppers Landscaping, I believe the first Saturday of each month, and then on Sundays, there's one here, right off of Kendall Hadley
Kendall
Road.
Hadley Way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing, and it's economic development, it's in downtown, and if there's anything that I can do to help support it, or if we can write an article, or do something for our newsletter
Yep.
to promote it, I think the more, I've talked to, probably 10 people and said, did you know about it? And they're like, oh, that's great, I'm gonna go, so it's a good thing.
We can do an email blast on it and let people know when it is, absolutely.
How many times are they gonna do it?
This one here, they're doing every Sunday
Every Sunday.
until either the first or second weekend in October.
It's 10 to what? I think
10
it's-
to 2 or 10 to 1?
I think it's 2.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I forget.
1 o'clock or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're really trying to shoot for the church crowd on
Church crowd.
Sunday morning.
How many participants were there this first time, do you know?
I'm not sure, but I've got
I went by and it looked pretty scarce, but I was only there at 10. You guys are right over there, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a developing thing.
Right.
The
That's
one
first
that's
time.
running it is in touch with all the local farmers and people that have homemade products that they wanna sell.
Mhm.
So she's marketing herself fairly well.
Mhm.
It's just a tough time of year to get people to come out on a Sunday and put a tent up and hang out for a couple hours.
Well,
I like
hopefully
this.
with more crops coming in the month of August,
Right.
we'll have more people there.
And then the other thing is a newsletter. Are we spring, summer?
We're in the summer now, and we'll need to get one out, so, if anybody has any ideas, farmer's market, we can
Yeah.
do that one, the planning grant, and then as you go out and visit these businesses, if you can,
This?
give me
Put this in there?
yep, we can talk about that.
That would be,
Yeah.
and then the other thing was that veteran we were talking about.
I did not get a response, but I didn't have a chance to follow up yet, with that gentleman, so I will, try that again, hopefully have information for you the next
Let me
meeting.
know how I can help.
Yep, absolutely.
That's it, sorry.
anything else?
I don't have anything.
Anybody else? Motion to adjourn?
Next meeting?
Second.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, next meeting.
next meeting, yeah.
Normally, it would fall on August 1st.
Nor will I.
Well, I guess we should think about changing that date. August. Anybody have any suggestions for dates?
Bump it up to the next week, the week of the 8th.
August 8th? How does that work for people?
I'm on weeding patrol for Robbie that night.
Come on, you don't really want to weed that bad. Can you weed before or
I'm trying to
after
weed that-
6:30 to
that poor
8?
girl, I'm trying to give her a hand, so.
I think I have a meeting that night too, the 8th, so I'd be looking at the 15th.
How about a Tuesday? Is that like the 7th? Does that
I can
work
do
for
that.
you guys?
I can do that.
I mean, does it matter if we change the day of the week to you guys?
No,
I'd
well, I
like
mean,
to
we'll
be
have to.
accommodating,
May
but
not get the
you know,
room, but.
I'd like
Yeah,
to-
we might be in this room again or
Okay.
another room somewhere else. I know the zoning board usually meets that night, but
I know it's easy when it's the same day of the week each time. It's easier to remember and so on, but if August 7th
August
works.
7th?
all right,
Sure.
Works for me.
6:30. All right, I will schedule a room.
You guys have laptops, I haven't graduated yet.
That's what we used to have.
Me and Smokey the Bear are still good friends. Don't have to worry about batteries.
Motion to,
Make a motion to adjourn? Make a motion?
Second.
Meeting adjourned.